Hi, welcome to this video about how to do ascending intervals in keys. Let's begin with looking at this assignment and the basic fact that all intervals upward from the root in a major key that are when we're dealing with notes that are diatonic to that key are major or perfect. So that means if you know what key you're in, you start on the lowest note of that key, the tonic note, and you go up, and if you ask yourself the question, is that note in the key, and if the answer is yes, then that interval will either be major or perfect. So here we are in the key of F. That is an F. That is a D. Is D in the key of F? Yes, it is. Therefore, that is a major sixth. Now we take a look at this one, and we're required to write the key signature, so we got to come up with the key signature for G major, which is, right, 1 sharp. And now we just put G in place, and we put a D in place for our second note, and we once again starting on the root note of the key, going ascending. We know all intervals, if they're in the key, will be, if they're in diatonic to the key, will be major or perfect. So we ask ourselves, is that D in the key of G? And of course the answer is yes, because there's no accidentals. It's not a D flat, it's not a D sharp, it's a D, and therefore that is a perfect fifth. Perfect fifth. And just carry on like that, putting in the key signature and then computing the interval. Now you'll notice some will start to be non-diatonic. So let's go down here and let's do this one for a minute. We need the key of G, and there it is. And then we need a G and a C sharp. And again we ask ourselves the question, is C sharp in the key of G? The answer is no. And then you say, well, what kind of C is in the key of G? And the answer is C natural. And so that G to C natural would be, right, a perfect fourth. But this is C sharp, therefore it's a half step greater than perfect. And remembering from our conversations before, when a perfect interval is increased by a half step, it becomes augmented. So this is an augmented fourth. It's F major, we put in our key signature, there it is, 1 flat, and we need F to A flat. So put in the A and F to A flat, so we ask ourselves, is A flat in the key of F? It is not. It is an A natural, that is the key of F, which is what kind of third? A major third, because the A is in the key, it's diatonic to the key. If we make it an A flat, it becomes a minor third. That's right. Okay, now let's take a look at descending intervals. Previously we've been doing ascending intervals, so now we look at the different rule. Ascending was all intervals upward from the root are major or perfect, while the reverse is all in a major scale, all intervals downward from the root are minor or perfect. Perfect intervals don't change quality when they're inverted, but major intervals become minor. So now when we're going downward to the notes in a scale, major scale, they're going to be minor or perfect. Here's an example right here. We're in C major here, and C is in the key of C. Obviously that's our root. We're going downward. If we were going downward in the key to an A, it would be an A, not an A flat. So C down to A is in the key of C, would be a minor third, but this is an A flat. It's a half step further away, wider. It's a wider interval than C to A. It's C to A flat. It's a half step wider than the C to A, which is a minor third. So it's a half step wider, so it's it's a major third. And here's where using a keyboard can help out to visualize this. Here's our C to A. 3 half steps, it's a minor third. C down to A flat is a wider distance by a half step. 4 half steps, that's a major third. Let's do another one. We're in F. F down to D. Again, the question is D in the key of F? The answer is yes. It's a third, it's downward, therefore it's a minor third. Let's do another. Remember, all intervals downward from the root in a major key are minor perfect or perfect. So here we are in G major. We need to put in our key signature, and there it is. There's our two notes. There are two notes. We've got a G and a D down to D. And all intervals downward from the root are major or perfect. Is D in the key of G? Yes, it is. Therefore, it is a perfect fourth. Look down at this one. D major, key signature, two sharps. D down to F sharp. And there it is. D down to F sharp. Why is there an F sharp? Because of the key signature. And again, ask yourself, is F sharp in the key of G, in the key of D rather? The answer is yes. Figure out the number. It's a sixth. Therefore, that is a minor sixth because it's descending. So we've been doing these homework assignments, and go ahead and complete them using these principles. Again, all intervals upward from the root in a major scale are major or perfect. All intervals downward from the root in a major scale are minor or perfect. On these examples that I've posted for you, the answer key is on the next page. So complete the page and then go ahead and check your answers. Now let's take a look at how this works when you're looking at intervals in various keys and various clefs. Be aware that in the test there will be changes of clef from bass clef to treble clef, keys from C to F to G, and so on. So it turns out that if you can think in a key, as long as you can think in the key of one of the notes of the interval, you can actually, for that moment that you're figuring out the interval, you can disregard what the actual key that you're in is, and you can simply just work out the interval based on what you know about the key of one of the notes of the interval. So if you want to deal with the lower note, you could say, let's take a look at this one. Well, we happen to be in the key of G, so the lowest note is a G, so you can ask yourself, is this upper F sharp in the key of G? Clearly it is, because there's no additional accidental, so that is clearly a major seventh. But down here we have two intervals. We're in the key of G, but we don't actually have a G note in this interval, but that's okay. You can still think in the key of one of these notes if you know your key signatures. So if we think in the key of the lower note D, and we know all intervals upward from the root in a major scale are major or perfect, so we just decide to think in the key of D for a minute just to get the interval, and we remember what the key signature of D is. Two sharps, F sharp and C sharp. Is B in the key of D? The answer is yes. Therefore, this is a major sixth. You can get the right answer that way. It doesn't matter that you're in the key of G at this moment. What you're concerned about is the distance between these two notes. And one way to get that is to think in the key of one of the notes. In this case we thought in the key of the lower note. Now, there might be times when you need to think in the key of a higher note and go down. So let's think of an example of that. Say you were going to do this interval here, and we're in treble clef at this point, and so you decided to figure out this interval, and you have an A and it's C, and you don't know the key of A yet, so you could go ahead and think in the key of the upper note. You can think in the key of C, and you say all intervals downward from the root are minor or perfect if they're diatonic to the key. So you ask yourself, is A in the key of C? The answer is yes, therefore it is a minor third. C down to A is a minor third.